Good evening. On behalf of Team Hyderabad Literary Festival and Moving Images, Jayesh Ranjan, T. Vijay Kumar, Amita Desai, Ajay Gandhi, Sanghamitra Malik, Indira Narayan, and myself, Kinnara Murthy, I extend a very warm welcome to all our viewers, friends of HLF, members of Moving Images, and a very special welcome very special welcome to our distinguished guests today, Konkona Sen Sharma and Parvathy Thiruvoth, as also to our moderator, Padma Ramesh. For many years now, Moving Images has been partnering with HLF for the cinema part of visual arts, which is a component of its core mandate, literature, arts, and culture. Before introducing our guests, please bear with me. I have a few announcements to make. Please subscribe to HLF YouTube channel by clicking on the bell icon to receive alerts of our very interesting fortnightly Fridays sessions. Please type your questions in the chat box. I shall come back at the end of the session to ask these questions on your behalf. HLF Friday Fortnights programs in July. We have one on 9th and one on 23rd. On 9th July, we have a book launch by Rohan Chakravarthy, Green Humor for a Graying Planet, a satirical take on the various aspects of natural world and threats to its conservation. The book appeals equally to the scientifically inclined as well as to the general public. It's a question, of whether to introduce or not when it comes to celebrities. However, given the social distancing that we assiduously practice between North India and South India, I've decided to introduce these two artists whom I admire greatly. Konkona is a poster girl of Indie cinema and a respected actor, writer, and director. 50 films, 2 national awards, 4 Filmfare Awards speak of her acting prowess. In 2016, she wrote and directed the wonderful film A Death in the Gunj that premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival. The film went on to garner awards nationally and internationally. Her recent interesting role choices include Dolly Kitty or Chamakte Sitare, Ram Prasad Ki Tervi, and Gili Puchi in Ajib Dastan, which are trending on OTT. Parvathy has blazed across South Indian films in Malayalam, Tamil, and Kannada, as well as forayed into a Hindi film opposite Irfan Khan. Her performances in diverse roles in many films have won her critical acclaim and many accolades. Some of the films are Notebook, Pooh, City of God, Bangalore Days, Charlie, and Take Off. She is the first Indian female actor to have won the prestigious Silver Peacock for the Best Actor Female at the International Film Festival of India. Several state film awards and Filmfare Awards followed. She is one of the founding members of Women in Cinema Collective in 2017, the first of its kind for female artists. WCC is a catalyst for building an inclusive workplace in the formidable male-dominated milieu of Indian cinema. My friend Padma Ramesh, who is moderating this session, is currently Dean Academics at Annapurna College of Film and Media in Hyderabad, where she integrates filmmaking with a liberal arts education. She was earlier a journalist who had written extensively on films. She also worked for some time as a corporate trainer and as a CSR facilitator. Both Konkona and Parvathy have charted out their own paths with the roles they chose to portray. Konkona wore her legacy lightly on her shoulders and made a distinct mark for herself, while Parvathy made her presence clearly felt despite the double odds of hero dominance and the upsurge of new talent and new cinema in Malayalam films. Indeed, they are a breed apart. This promises to be a crackling session. Before I hand over the session to Padma, I'd like to remind the viewers to type in their questions in the chat box. Over to you, Padma.
Thank you, Kinara. So, hello everyone, and Konkona and Parvathy. I'm going to just dive in straight. So, let me start the conversation today with asking a question about today's theme, a breed apart, like Kinara was saying. This is what it typifies who you two people are. Uh, Working in cinema on your own terms, what has that meant to you? I mean, this is what I would want to start off the discussion with. To operate in a predominantly male-dominated world, sorry, and an industry on your own terms, whether it is independent cinema or whether it is mainstream cinema, both of you have made your indelible mark on the audiences. But I'm sure there's a lot of hard work, a lot of heartache which has gone behind it. So, starting the conversation saying, how do you operate, or what on what terms do you operate in this male-dominated industry? Your take. Konkana, you can go first.
Thank you. Thanks, Padma. And thanks to Kinara for that such a warm, generous introduction. It's so fantastic to be here today. I wish you could be there live in person, but maybe hopefully next year on the other side of Corona. Um, you know, I have to say, when you ask me that question, it is difficult for me to answer because it was never planned as such that I'm going to be as you call, maybe from the outside it seems that I'm a breed apart or something, but like it's not like that from the inside for me personally, how I operate, right? I think that most of my choices are just, an extension of my personality. I've been very blessed, very privileged to have, Aparna Sen as my mother. She's a filmmaker, an actress, an activist, film editor, etc. So I have always seen her kind of living life on her own terms. On her own terms, and I've had in that sense a rather unconventional childhood and upbringing. So perhaps I have always been comfortable with being little different and not necessarily having to fit in. Um, I mean, in some areas, in other areas, I do struggle. Yeah. So I don't really see it as I'm trying to be different. I see it more as I'm trying to be true to myself. I'm just trying to be authentic to my own self. So I don't necessarily just participate with what is, ongoing. I like to do things my own way and take my own decisions and, even whatever repercussions it may have. I think.
Okay. Well, Parvathy, yes. I'll just throw the question to both of you and then come to individual conversations. Yeah.
And I want to say again, thanks to Kinara for that really, really cool introduction, which are the times when I would feel like I should go off video and then listen to it, bask it and come back, then keep a straight face through it. But thank you, Kinara, and thank you, Padma. It's lovely to be here. And I'm going to try and not let my admiration for Konkana come in the way when she speaks. I'm like, oh,
no, please don't.
You all do that. So I am not from a film background, in the sense that nobody in my family was a part of the film industry. Maybe by like an extended relative would be a director or something, but nobody in my immediate circle. So it was always my mother who wanted me to be in the arts, because she could never be the Bharatanatyam dancer that she wanted to be, or my father wanted to be a violinist, but he was a banker all his life. So they were very keen on me taking Bharatanatyam classes or going for all kinds of art, which I definitely took for granted as a child. I was always cribbing, I don't want to go. And then there was this one odd beauty contest kind of thing that mom and I would go and have fun at. And then I got called for auditions, and it just so happened that it was always this curiosity as to what is this action cut business, what is performance, what's acting. But it was very superficial when I was 15, 16. We did not really have the kind of bandwidth to go and watch films in theaters often either at the time. So film was not exactly that huge part of my upbringing. But then the film Notebook happened to me. Like, Out of Syllabus was my first film, but the Notebook happened. I was quickly introduced to this whole new ocean. Like, I was just dropped into it. And then it was just, the next couple of years was just learning how to swim in it whilst not losing a sense of who I am or who I was becoming, because it's 17, 18, 19. It's like very formative years. And, so what I realized at the very start, and now when I look back, is that I don't know why this happened, but I always felt that I should never let my identity be hooked onto this profession. The craft, yes. I will take a lot away from the craft and I'll have a relationship with it, but not the career itself. So I always, all my choices were informed by the fact that, okay, if this is going to be my last film, or if there's going to be a system around me which is stifling that I can't grow, I'll find another place to grow. I will not stay here and like compromise anything, any part of me. Since that was thankfully because of my very early friendships in the industry also, which are writers and directors who did show that by example, I started following that. And thank God for that. I mean, and I just stuck to it. It was also a way at the time there was no like social media and all this like noise around either. So I could stick to that. And I think that sort of anchor within me is still holding me in place even now, no matter how far I've come. Yeah.
This is very interesting because, I was just watching Notebook and, it was made way back. And when you signed that film, the film is about teenage pregnancy and this whole stigma around menstruation. You must have been very young when you signed it. And to sign a film like that way back then, and did it require any kind of special thought, or was it just your upbringing, like you said, and said, okay, it doesn't really matter what the film is about, but it is my, when I say your perception of saying, okay, this is a good role, this is what it is about, that you went ahead and did it.
I did not have, I'm sorry, but no, continue. But I didn't.
No, you go ahead. I just wanted your, what made you sign a film like that back in the day? I mean, today's Parvathy would just look at the script and say, okay, maybe this is saying something, maybe I believe in it. But way back when you did the film, you were very young, you knew, what it was talking about. Did it ever, occur to you, is what I was trying to say.
Just the thing is that I think I did get lucky. My first film was a movie called Out of Syllabus, which was based on some real life incidents about college students having debt and unable to pay their fee later on. And my character was based on a character who actually, died by suicide. And then, but my character was written in as someone who perseveres and who carries on. And I remember reading the script, and not a script per se, but actually a story, really, what they gave me. And I feel like I was lucky that the first two films that I did, Out of Syllabus and Notebook, they respected the actors, the newcomer actors, enough to actually sit with them, explain what the character was, because soon after that I realized not a lot of people were keen on doing that. They would just call you, tell you who the hero was, and 3 songs in Switzerland, these are the dates, and I'd be like, but story, but who's directing it? And they were very surprised because my first two films had set the standard with that kind of dynamic. So I was like, how will I now do this? So, but also again, like I am lucky that it was Bobby Sanjay's script and it was that topic, but I did not feel at the time I was thinking about it from the angle of, oh, I need to see what the movie is telling. I lucked out that it said something so powerful. But then for me, it was about actually the very first introduction to the craft of acting. I had a gala time just understanding, oh, this is not just coming in and dramatically reading your dialogues. This is about getting into the skin of who she is. Who is she now? And then making her real. So, yeah.
And coming to this whole question of craft of acting, which we mentioned, I mean, who better than Konkona, of course, So Konkona, and this is one question I think most of us have been wanting to ask you in your 20 odd years that you have worked in cinema, and you have done such memorable roles, like I was telling you, a revolutionary actress, if I may call you that. You have films addressing communal violence, mental health, one of your best films, 15 Park Avenue, a celebrity culture you had, in a film like Page 3. And I was so surprised that when I was reading about you, I came across this film called Mixed Doubles, in which you even went swinging, actually. So, and of course, there is the Mr. and Mrs. Iyer, one of your first films, and where you just got the Tamil accent down pat. You had this dark flashing eyes. And Meenakshi, your role in that film, which of course also got you the national award, National Best Actress Award, and that is still a bar for actresses who enter into the industry. So from there, from Meenakshi to Shireen Aslam in Lipstick Under My Burqa, to Bharti Mondal. I mean, you can just see how have you traversed this journey from Meenakshi to Bharti. They are as different as can be.
Yeah, I firstly got very lucky that these films were offered to me in the first place, because there are so many diverse films around. Even the thing is, to begin with, I never wanted to be an actor. I think it's because, while I was growing up, my mother didn't really let me watch mainstream Hindi films, of the 80s and 90s. At that time, there were a lot of the mainstream films were, quite regressive and loud and, all of that. And instead, we watched a lot of world cinema, like some regional cinema, etc. And I was encouraged to read. Even with my reading, I remember she would say, now you're reading too much Enid Blyton. So you must read other things. So she was very particular about what the intake and what the input was.
Yeah.
So as a result, I think I didn't, in any case, really identify with the protagonists of the mainstream films anyway. I mean, of course, I've watched a few of them and loved a few of them, like Mr. India, Masoom, etc. We've watched those, but the bulk of it I have not watched, and I have not grown up, relating to it or, identifying with it in any way. If anything, it was like, oh, this is not really me, and I didn't ever really want to be an actor. Because I'd always seen it from the inside, and my mother, because she was kind of putting out a content which is slightly alternative, I really saw the struggle to get funding and to get to put your film out there. So I really saw the behind the scenes, the mechanics of it, and I understood that it's quite tough. So I just assumed that, I did English literature, and I assumed that I would, get into journalism or advertising or publishing or something like that. And I didn't want to be an actor. So it was easy for me to say, it's okay. I mean, only if I get something interesting, I'll do it. I'll anyway find a real job. So I had a very take it or leave it kind of an attitude back then, at least,
Yeah.
And so my first film that I did also was a very unconventional role, because it was, a Bengali film called Agja Chakunna, which is about a teenage girl who is romantically and sexually obsessed with an older man, and she eventually murders somebody as well. And I really didn't like this character at all. I really felt that she's very strange, and I didn't really want to do it at all. And my mother had said that, it's a very strong kind of a part, so why don't you do it? So I did that between my second and third year of college. Then even like Mr. and Mrs. Iyer is something I didn't want to do. I remember telling my mother, you should cast an actual Tamilian lady for it, why are you taking me? And she said, no. She had her reasons, thank God. And, she was very smart, because she said, you go to Madras, that time it was called Madras, and you go and do your research for me. What are the difference between the Iyers and the Iyengars and the Shaivites and the Vaishnavites, and what are the cultural differences, and the markers, etc. So I found very exciting, and my ME at that time was very boring that I was doing. So I went there and I really kind of immersed myself in that. Stayed with family friends, and immersed myself in that culture and that accent also. It was because at home my mother would insist on talking to me in the Tamil accent. So, because I'm actually quite a nervous and shy kind of a person, and a bit of an introvert often. So, I think it was for me a situation where I was like, I would only take on something if I found a reason, I found it interesting. Oh, this character is very interesting, or this director does interesting work, or, this character is going through this kind of a transition. And then I would also often take films that were the best of what was offered to me. So if you see those 50 films that I've done, only I think 10 or 15 are actually noteworthy. Actually, a lot of them are very mediocre. So luckily, people have not seen all. But, and I've had a chance to actually work with some interesting talent, and I've not been afraid to kind of, do roles which are a little unusual, or a little different. I've always kind of gravitated naturally towards those roles. I've also not been offered the very kind of a mainstream kind of content either. I mean, maybe a little bit, but not very much. Even the kind of mainstream films I've done have been alternative films for those studios. Like, for example, Up Sit for Dharma is their slightly indie content compared to Dharma films. Or Aja Nachle is Yash Raj's indie content. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. And you were lucky enough, I think, because Wake Up Sid kind of, I know there was a conversation at that time saying, okay, Konkona and Ranbir Kapoor, but I think the chemistry seemed to have worked. And and even if it was an alternative film for them, I think it must have done some wonders for your career, did it?
Of course it did. I got a whole lot of love for it. And till today, Iktara, it's just wherever I go, I mean, they play Iktara, and I'm so happy. I mean, I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
I did never seeked it out. I never sought it out.
Yeah.
And, the way other people, I've always been very detached from my image. Because an image is something which is constructed outside of yourself, and I don't feel I have anything to do with it. It's what other people may think or say or feel about me, and it really has nothing to do with me. I just have to kind of be true to myself and take my own decisions and do what I think is good, do what I think is interesting.
Yeah. So, okay, the next question, which I would want both of you to think about, like, now you have worked in the industry for more than 20 years, and Parvathy has also been part of it for nearly 15 years. So do you think the kind of roles which are available today have evolved over the years, right from the time you started to what is happening today? Have filmmakers, whether it is mainstream or parallel cinema, they have taken cognizance of the fact that there could be a thriving alternative cinema, or roles which are written specifically for actors like you or Parvathy? You think that the space has kind of shifted? Has there been some kind of an evolution over the years?
Go ahead, Parvathy.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
For me, I mostly like she should go first. I'm sorry. I'm like doing that to you. I do feel like there is a huge difference. When I started off, again, I have to say that I have been very lucky with the kind of content that did come my way. But it used to be the minority. It used to be in the minority, such projects. And there were a lot of really, like, the ones that are called mass projects, like mass films, like the ones that clicks with all classes of audience. And there was, like, I mean, I did that. I mean, in the beginning, I did Kannada films in which, like, I did for sure go to the Swiss Alps and wear like folk dresses and dance, and like most, and then there are times I've like really wondered, wait a second, if this is going to be the majority, then I'm not able to connect with it. It definitely is something that I would probably enjoy as sitting as an audience, but the performance part of it is not exciting me. And there were times, obviously, that I reconsidered whether I should continue down this path or like go back to college. But then now, I think in the last 7-8 years, especially, and Malayalam cinema has always been endowed with some really amazing content. There have been times that, we did have like a surge of films which were like really clicking in Telugu, like Allu Arjun films, which would be dubbed into Malayalam, and they were like getting this really, that mass love, and somewhere along the way that happened. That was like a phase that Malayalam movies went through. And for sure, I did feel pretty lost around then, not knowing what kind of projects I would be even considered for, because I do feel like there are projects that I wouldn't fit into. There are aesthetics or genres that I wouldn't fit into, or probably I wouldn't get a lot out of. But at this point, I think we are spoiled for choice. But I'm greedy. I'm very greedy, because the more I know what's happening around the world, around my state, with what's happening within the industry, I know we can do a lot better. I know women can have a lot more like than what we have now. So I wouldn't say I'm content with the change, but I definitely acknowledge the changes.
Yeah. Konkana, what's your take? Do you think?
I have to say that I agree with a lot of what Parvathy was saying. One thing which I feel strongly about is the way that resources are distributed for films, is that, it really depends on the actors you get. Like if you have, A-listers and big stars, then you are allotted more funds. But, not so for films which are, so independent films usually have much less funds, which is, I accept it. What can I do? It's fine. But ideally, the funds allotted to a film should depend on the script and not on the actors that participate. Because in any case, it's not a foolproof thing. It's not works, always.
Yeah.
So with the coming of OTT platforms, of course, there was a huge, thrill that, now things will change. Unfortunately, censorship has crept into OTT, which is a very worrying thing. I'm entirely against censorship of all kinds. I mean, it is entirely a choice that adults make. They can, if they can vote, they can choose what content they want to consume. And we should allow for all kinds of different content to, be made.
Yeah.
In OTT platforms, earlier there was a sense of freedom because, with the format you can play, you can have a short film, you can have a mini series, you can have reality or documentary, you can have, anthologies, etc., and feature films. But unfortunately that, and because of that, I've gotten to know a whole host of wonderful actors who may not have gotten their due on the big screen. In mainstream cinema, we may not have seen such fantastic performances, but now we can because of OTT. So that is a wonderful thing, and I'm excited about that. I feel that there've always been a small percentage of good films which have been happening since the 70s. A small percentage of films are quite progressive, are quite modern, are ahead of their times, etc. But I feel it's definitely not enough. Every year you'll find a few, but where the bulk of the eyes go, the bulk of the viewers, the bulk of the resources, all of that do not go to progressive content.
Yeah. I think there's always been this kind of a tussle is a very strong word, but this kind of a differentiation saying that, it's an industry which is market driven. So obviously, the big monies go to places where it works. And of course, the independent filmmakers are, they have to tread their own path, whichever way you look at it. I mean, like a lot of times, I think it's after all an industry which is dictated by the market, the forces of the market. But having said that, and thanks for bringing in this OTT, and the kind of change, refreshing change which it brought into the films. So do you think the OTT platforms in India have allowed and brought in more nuanced portrayals of women, the kind which we don't see in mainstream cinema? In the sense, you have, web series like 4 Shots More, or you had film like Juice, you had Once Again, a whole lot of them. I think, even Delhi Crime. The kind of portrayal, the kind of chances it is given actors, which these are highly, like you said, such talented actresses who have suddenly they have been discovered by these platforms. And it also the platforms are also allowing you to do a very nuanced portrayal, because what is not allowed or not accepted in mainstream cinema is being accepted on the OTT platforms. What do you think of it? And of course, now with this whole question of, is it going to be censored? What should people see and should not? There's another, of course, there's this Hawa stand, behind everybody's heads. But yes, OTT, and did it bring a kind of herald a change in people's viewing tastes?
I think for sure. I mean, I would speak as the audience in this, because I haven't really done web series or anthologies. I haven't been a part of on OTT once this OTT boom has started. Like, it's another thing that the movies that have released have then later on come on OTT platforms.
Yeah.
But as a consumer, I feel like the kind of nuanced character like portrayals in the, like when we have limited series, it's about 8 or 9 episodes, there is enough space for any character within the script to have a really beautiful arc still and stay in your mind and how you take it forward. And I also feel like there's a bit of a change that's happening. It might be minute, but it's definitely happening. Is it starts off and there's always a binge watching. Like, there is one main highway where it's like just binge watching, but then there are these service roads which are beautiful. Like, I love taking those and then finding some gems and then staying with it. So I'm hoping that we'd merge that, like make those a little bit bigger spaces. I hope for that to happen. But then, like Konkona did say, like censorship, I'm also against censorship of all kinds. And now with the cinematograph bill and like what they're trying to do, it feels really intrusive and more like an assault on our artscape. So there needs to be, we need to keep our eye out, eye peeled to what's happening with our rights, with our freedom when it comes to what we're putting out. But I do feel like it's a good space still for a lot of actors who've been undiscovered before. And also, just a word about market value, like this is something that has been the word market value. It's always a chicken and egg situation. I've always tried to find out, wait a second, so who decides who's market value? So when the producers say that, but that, of course, like, I mean, so most of the time it's the heroes. And then there are the actors, the female actors who do contribute, who seem to not take in any of the satellite rights, not bringing in any of the market value. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm like, okay, we need to get to the bottom of this to understand. And if we are not generating, now we are going to generate by really just spreading into all the crevices of the film industry. So we need more women in distribution, production, all those spaces, and let them be more evident. We want to see them. And because whatever definition of market value, which is still kind of being held from us, is not working for me or for my fellow female actors. So that also needs to change. Now with the OTT, I'm hoping that also, we can set new definitions for it, for work to happen.
There's always hope for the future, and I'm sure it will work out well. So from talking about markets or talking about an OTT platform, I just wanted to come to your craft, your personal craft of, have you and Konkona both? Yes, sorry, yeah, go on.
Just interject though a little bit, because I'm very curious to know from a creator's perspective what Konkona feels about.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's Konkona.
The thing is that the majority of positions of people who are in positions of power and key decision makers in studios and in companies, whether it's in OTTs or studios, film studios, etc., the large part of them these positions are held by upper caste men. So that actually needs to change, regardless of OTT and regardless of film. So that needs to change, because we cannot only be catering to the decisions that older upper caste men are taking, and it's usually like I would say 40 to 60 when they get to those positions of power. So that I feel will herald some change. That automatically will herald some change. We also need to see more women making films, and as Parvathy said, in other areas, in distribution, exhibition, also in the more technical aspects of filmmaking, not just editing, but in sound and production, etc., those kinds of things. And just having more women filmmakers, just to see what they will make, not that we can dictate content to them. I remember when I was making Death in the Ganj, I was asked a few times that how come you don't have a female protagonist? Being a woman, you should have a female protagonist. So we cannot be telling women what to do. That is the problem. I guess I was talking about toxic masculinity, and I wanted to look at it through a young man's
eyes, kind of thing.
I guess.
Yeah.
So we cannot be telling women what to do, and we need to have women make those films, and then let's see. So even in OTT, I am not so optimistic anymore. I'm much older now. I'm not so optimistic. I'm quite cynical. I feel there have always been a small group of progressive people, and with limited resources, and I'm happy and proud to belong to that tribe. That is the decision I have taken. That is what plays out in my life, and it remains to be seen. So sometimes films which are very close to my heart don't make it to a large audience, and that is something I accept. I accept that. If it's going to be like that, then so be it, because I have to be true to myself. And I also feel lucky, because I feel like I've got a lot anyway. And in OTT also, we don't have, if we have to see the quality of the work, we can't just be, this has become very popular. So I'm anyway always very suspicious of what is popular. If it's popular and good, that's fantastic. It's rare.
I know, more power to people like you. I wish there were more, like you said, not just editors and actors, but yes, more cinematographers. Women cinematographers. Just today, I was in a session where Jabeen Merchant was talking, actually. So it's wonderful. The kind of energy women bring to the set, I think it has to be tapped into, and I think we need more and more women in the technical space also.
Having said that, I just want to add that there are many times when women are, misogynistic or very patriarchal. So there is it's not like just because you're a woman, you'll be,
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you'll have a liberated, viewpoint or something. Has it been, I mean, have you ever, both of you, ever encountered something like that, where there is a woman filmmaker, but still it's a very misogynist point of view which is being depicted? Has
I
it
feel
happened?
like I want to be that character who doesn't have any dialogues, just want to speak with my eyes on this one. No, of course, there have been. I want to say, by calling myself out, like when I started off, I didn't know my deep rooted condition, like patriarchy within me. It took 15 years for me to recognize that and weed it out. But I also am very grateful that the collective did come together, and then there is this, really amazing collective supporting me, criticizing me beautifully, so that I can keep washing my insides out. But the thing is, I do still feel like it's definitely the conditioning. We are all victim to a patriarchal system we've been part of. We have added to in our own ways. We are trying to sort of undo it. There is no comparison to who's doing what and how much and more. But I do feel there are times I do get very frustrated about the fact that the onus of changing things only comes to the select set who's always working. Like suddenly there is an issue or something related to women's freedom or their expression, and the entire question is turned to the select few who've only been speaking up. It's as if it's only our job, and that's something that I do not want to I don't want to let that happen anymore. So I go quiet. I'm like, ask more people. Let's have women and men speak. Also, the idea is to eventually, at some point, maybe this is too utopian to expect, is to do away with genders in a way that doesn't become the yardstick to do things, or to have our artists create, whereas all genders are a part of it. And so there needs to be first enough representation for that to happen. And when we have women too who do not believe that they need that, or have been benefiting in a certain way because of the set patriarchal power structures, it's kind of hard to have a dialogue with them. So my route is to not try and push hard on that, and to see where the ground is fertile and try and create more, so that the benefit eventually will reach everyone. It just may not be very evident right now. I don't know. I am part cynic, part optimist. I keep swinging. So over to you, Konkona.
Yeah. And yes, I mean, there's one, of course, Parvathy, there's one question, of course, because you've always been tagged as we were also talking about it, like activist actor or actor activist, because it's been tagged with your name, and has it kind of impacted the kind of roles you get or you don't get, you're offered or not offered because of this tag? Has it?
I don't know, but not about the roles, but definitely opportunities. There is always a kind of a shadow band, that shadow and light comes and goes. I don't try to, again, I use that same principle that I started off with. I'm like, if not this, I'll create something else, guys. Like, it's never going to be a do or die situation for me. So I'm chill with that, but also acknowledging I can be chill with that because of my privilege, because I am, from a Hindu family in an upper caste upbringing. So the blows are cushioned for me. So, but if I can use the space and the stage that I have in order to create more space for others to, take up the mic and speak, which is what the last 4 years of being part of the collective has done to me. And and this, with all respect to the activists out there who are spending 24 hours a day to try and change the system. I've been called an activist because I called out misogynistic content in a film. That makes me an activist. I'm very happy to be. So I'm fine with losing out on work, because I do believe that there is not going to be at any stage a point where I'll stop working, or I'll stop creating what I want to create. I'm emboldened and I'm empowered by the kind of stories that I have watched. Once I came into the industry, I've seen women, traversing. I'm completely emboldened. So I have that, I don't know, they call it arrogance, I call it confidence. So I'm like, it's fine.
That's me. That's you, who you are, Parvathy. So, I really want to come talk about Gili Pucci, actually, and I want to talk about your film Take Off, or or the other films, because there is, when you look at Konkona, especially in Gilipuchi, can I just, I'll come to that, and then I just also want to talk about your whole process of how do you internalize a character and how does it come about, But Konkona, Gilipuchi is such a fascinating and unusual role. There is no one identity. Here we were talking about, identity as an artist, as other genders also being represented. So here there is no one identity that is being represented, exclusively in the short film. There is Bharti the Dalit, there is Bharti the woman, is Bharti the lesbian. So, and then what kind of preparation, if you can call it, or study did you have to do for this role? How did you represent such diverse identities in such a complex manner? I mean, the whole film, your whole body language, every scene, and I also love the fact that she refuses to be a victim. In the end, she is not a victim. She's, so how did you prepare for such a complex role? Some words.
I first wanted to say that, I am very interested in stories that are not told. I'm very interested in underdog stories. I'm not interested in the dominant narrative because I feel like there's a lot of nuance and a lot that gets left out. So I've just generally always been that person. So I naturally gravitate towards those kind of stories. Also that, none of us have only one identity in the way we live our lives. We don't have one identity. I mean, I am a woman, I'm a mother, I'm a feminist, I'm a Hindu, I'm not a Hindu, I'm an atheist, I'm, all so many different things, right?
Yeah.
And we all are, and we all, try, or, we're always reconciling these different identities. So that's only normal to be represented, for that to be represented on film. That I feel like that's how it not should be, because I feel like there should be all kinds of films, of course. But why should that not be? Because it's not. It's usually we look at only through one lens. So I was thrilled when Neeraj Gewan offered me Gilipuchi, because it's something that just immediately resonated with me. I was also, since you asked about the acting and the preparation, etc., I was also very deeply influenced by a film called Below Her Mouth, which is a beautiful lesbian love story, which I saw at the Toronto Film Festival the year the Death in the Country was there. And the cast had come there, and the name of the actress is Erica Linder. And she is absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
Breathtaking. She
Absolutely.
took my mind that,
blows your mind away, actually.
Yes. And that there is no one valid way of being a woman or a man or a non-binary person. That there is no one set pattern that we don't have to accept what is given to us. You can forge your own path, and when you do, it is so sometimes it is so real that so many others can also then there are people with you. There are so many others who are with you when you do that, and that's such a wonderful feeling. So I feel like I'm always chasing that in a way, and I'm always chasing unconsciously those stories which are not told, or the stories which are the people who slip through the cracks, or for whatever reason their stories are not told. So that is something that has always appealed to me. For the preparation of this, I also read, Neeraj gave me this fantastic book called Coming Out as Dalit by Yashika Dutt, which is a fantastic read, which recently won an award as well. I would highly recommend it to everybody, because I don't know, when we talk about caste, it's usually only about like reservation and merit, and it's only about Safai Karamchari Andolan and things like that. But there's also many different other struggles which one may not always be so aware of. So I found that very enlightening, and just like expanded my own horizons a lot, and I would recommend that very highly. That really helped me in my performance.
Wonderful. I mean, to know that other films have, because it's such a, against to use a cliched word, nuanced, understated, and such a powerful performance, actually. Gilipuchi has, I mean, it's kind of really blown everybody.
I personally don't feel like a woman all the time, I mean, I feel often like sometimes like a fraud woman, and I think it's because there's so much conditioning, all the time. Like, women are supposed to be like this, and men are supposed to be like this, and mothers who are a whole separate on their own are supposed to be like this.
I mean, so much. You're right. So much for conditioning. I think right from the beginning, we have been told to behave in a certain way, be a certain way. And when
you don't know how much that happens with moms. I'm really dying to kind of actually get to that eventually, hopefully at some point, because I remember this one time when I was speaking to someone who seemed fairly woke, and she said something, she said, I'm single, and I said, oh, so am I. And she said, don't be silly, you're a mom. And I wanted to say, but I'm not dating my child. I at that time. So then, we have so many preconceived notions. We're always putting people in boxes, and then we lose out on so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think where we lose out on aspects of our own self, which we would otherwise kind of, look into and say, oh, this is also me. Most of the time, I do think we hide facets of ourselves, actually, because that's what the people the society tells us to do. Anyway, that's my little bit. Parvathy, I wanted to talk to you about Sameera. This amazing role, Takeoff, from the film Takeoff. Here is this a nurse based on a kind of a true story, married, divorced, goes back, the film is different. Your acting is amazing. And I think you also said in one of your interviews that you get that kind of, you relate very close to Sameera as in the power which she had represented, so what was that like? There were two roles which stand out for me. One is, of course, this and Sameera in this film, and one is your Pallavi.
Pallavi, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I think that's a story of achievement. This is where a society which places so much premium on beauty. Here is this film which talks about saying, look behind. I mean, look within. I don't know what, but I think it's a film which speaks, cutting across all these cliches and touches the heart. Can you just tell me about how was your process of playing Pallavi actually? Because that must have been, I don't know how you prepared for that role like that.
For me, I mean, Sameera, Pallavi, and all these women that I have been through or being through me, I don't know how to say it, they're all just, I feel like I'm in the wings most of the time, and like I see them perform. It's like it's a very visual sensory experience for me, how I view the characters I have performed as. And they always take care of me. Like I feel like Parvathy is taken care of by these women. Like I didn't know that in the beginning. In the beginning, it was a lot more about doing the research, and I still do, and I enjoy it. But now I look forward to the time when I'm done performing as a character, and the ensuing years continuing now. I wouldn't say I'm a sum total of all the women that I've played, but they definitely come in at points in my life to guide me, or I become them or something. There is some kind of this osmosis that happens, which I thoroughly enjoy. It's a psychological trip and I really enjoy it. And so that I feel is my first takeaway from this job itself, is that I get to have fun in my head, and the rest of it all is just up for grabs for anybody to take away what they want. Like what Pallavi's character is a story of, again, survival. Like she's an acid attack survivor, and she makes it, with a lot of support for sure. But it's great to watch that movie. I like watching movie where people make it, and and I feel like I am the character for the next 10 minutes after watching a film, and I walk like them. But I do that thing. So, and Sameera, I remember that was a time when Mahesh Narayan told me a story. He didn't tell me in the milieu of the nurses who were stuck in Iraq, like, in Mosul. But he did mention that, imagine a woman who's married, leaves the husband, has a son, but the custody goes to the father, has to come back to take care of the family, falls in love, gets married again, and gets pregnant. And now she feels it's almost like an angle on how this particular woman seems to be answerable to first her family, her father, then her first husband, eventually ex-husband, then the new husband. And then suddenly she's guilty, kind of, for having another child. And now she's looking for validation from her first son, from the previous marriage. And it's through the son that she kind of, like, the son just loves this baby. She didn't realize that, but towards the end, she is kind of set free from all that structure within her, that, oh wait, nobody really expected that from me, but we've all been stuck in that space of, okay, wait, I need to be answerable here, here, here. So that was the initial pitch. And I fell in love with that because it made me reflect on, wait, where did I get stuck in my head with that? So it just went on. And then when he sort of juxtaposed that to the nurse's story of the ones of Malayali nurses who were stuck in Mosul,
Yeah.
their travel back, it just all clicked and fell in place. And I remember this was about 5 to 6 months of shoot, different schedules. And Samira is someone just with the kind of stuff that she has to do in her life, pay the loan, get more. And the reason is that all these nurses go to a war-torn country because they'd be paid more money than in their own homeland.
Yeah.
They would risk their lives rather than stay back here and be paid peanuts, right? Because they can't afford to. They go for all these professional courses, they go for nursing courses, and they can't pay back the educational loan.
Yeah.
And so they are forced to do that. So there's definitely a study on that as well in the film, which definitely caught the eye of the audience. But for me, it was about this woman just doesn't smile. She doesn't have the time to smile. She just has forgotten how to smile. She has this
Yeah.
knit.
Yeah.
And I used to actually go back into my vanity and watch Gilmore Girls to laugh. I wanted Gilmore Girls and the romance and all of that. I wanted some, because I felt like it was settling in that she's someone who hasn't allowed herself any space. And then there are some beautiful people who happen to her life. And I so for me, that journey internally and externally watching that film being made was very, very gratifying.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the film itself is when she breaks the shackles and the whole portrayal of Samira. Actually, I think it's wonderful. I think that's what makes you and
I
Konkona
feel
such
like she
empowering.
comes on to me sometimes when I have to like defend myself. When
Samira comes on.
there's a social auditing happening with something I have said, I'm like,
Yeah.
there is something about her that comes and like
Yeah.
sort of, there is this magnetic field between me and what happens outside that happens. That's what Samira's go-to technique of
Wow.
protecting herself.
Great.
Wow, that was so interesting to hear.
Absolutely. I know. I mean, taking off from a character and making it your shield, as it were, to deal with a real life situation. So this is wonderful. So here, I just wanted to. This is a kind of serious question. I don't know whether just deflect it if you don't want to answer it. But so when you criticize a movie, a film for being sexist or misogynistic or casteist, uh, is the criticism also aimed at the actor who plays the part in the film? Most of the times, we have come across situations where people hold the actor who plays the part as being kind of responsible. I don't know where it's coming from. What do you think? What are your views, both of you? I mean,
Konkona, if I may, because I'm like brimming because I have done this in the past. So I feel like I don't hold one single person responsible. I feel like it's more of needing to have a discussion with the writer in what their vision was and understanding that any aspect of the society need can be portrayed through any form of art. The point is when it comes to a large scale of consumption like cinema, do we blur the line between reflecting and glorifying? I've repeated this several times, and the fact that does anything get glorified to the extent we normalize it? Something that can be so, because we have the culture where like sports and cinema is so like influential in our lives. Like we see, I do that too. Like I watch films and I do get influenced, and I do feel like 2 hours in a dark room, or let's say now on TV, I do get, there is some rewiring happening or some internal shifting that happens. And I feel like there has to be a bit of a sensitivity in understanding what we are. And it's fine if you are willing to glorify something, let's say something that's sexist, and the writer truly is sexist, then it's a reflection on that person. I'm not saying again cancel the person or attack a person for that. I have done films in which there are certain aspects which have been heavily criticized, and most of the time the question comes to me and not the director and the writer. And I do take the onus of responding to a degree, but it can't be entirely me either. And I do not want to get into the space of cancel culture either, because we are all learning, we have all been conditioned a certain way.
yeah.
So I think dialogue is what's more important for me.
Okay.
I do want to
Are
add
we
to
ready
that.
for question answers, or you still have?
Yeah.
No, no.
We'll just let her answer this.
What Konkona has to say.
Quickly, yeah. I know.
Thanks. I just wanted to add to that actually that, for an example, like those very lovely ads, which are so whatever, I don't even know what you call it, discriminatory. But like a lot of the time, like actors do get flack for it. And of course, I also feel because it's a collaborative medium, I feel like the whole team should get the flack, or the criticism should be faced by the whole team, especially those in, positions of power, and not necessarily, like somebody who's not earning very much from it. But it shouldn't only go to the actors. Of course, it should also go to the actors, but it should also go to the directors, the writers, the people who are putting in the money. That is the main people. The main target should be that. Why are you funding this? Yeah. If you don't fund it, nobody can participate in it. So I feel like the primary target should go to the financiers. And then, of course, other people, it's a collective responsibility as well.
I agree. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
Very good. I'll just last question, Kinnara. I have to ask this, Konkona, to you. Has motherhood changed you? Has, being a mother, how has it changed you? And is Mr. and Mrs. Iyer Part 2, can it happen? Or can Mr. and Mrs. Iyer happen today? I love it as a love story. So yes, is it possible?
We did toy with that idea of making a Mr. and Mrs. Iyer Part 2, but I mean, I personally am like, we should not mess with that. Like, it was gold and it was amazing, and let's not mess with it. My mother and Rahul are very much like, should we? And they've considered it. And of course, if they do, I will too, but I don't know. I don't think it's happening.
Yeah.
I feel it's better not to. And motherhood, I mean, God, I mean, that's a whole other thing. I mean, I really feel like, I don't think it's essentially changed me as a person. I don't feel like my values have changed. I mean, so I don't think in that sense it's changed me. And in some ways it's also like, it's difficult to answer because it is such a, you can go through your whole life without doing yoga and it's just fine. But like for people who do yoga, even it's like, their whole life is determined partly by that yoga. Like, it's like, film direction, like, like directing a film, was it an enjoyable experience? It's not one thing, so similarly, like motherhood is not one thing, like it's so many different things. But so it's often frustrating, rewarding, meaningful, fulfilling, tiring, whatever. It's so many different things. What I think needs to be examined is how mothers are being looked at from the outside, and so that mothers also don't have to conform to, oh, this is how I have to be a mother. It's the same thing of, this is how I have to be a woman and this is how I have to be a man or anything else, So I think that society and, our structures are built in such a way that we are really like, limiting, defining all the time. So that needs to change. I feel that needs to open up a little bit. I'm waiting to see how my own work is influenced by me being a mom. It's not happened in my writing or direction yet.
Thank you so much. I know there's so many things I want to ask you, but Kinnara is waiting for the questions from audience. And if I get time, I'll ask you a couple more. But yeah, over to you, Kinnara. Thank you so much. It was so wonderful talking to you.
The session is getting really interesting and a lot of people are talking about it. But I think we need to give a little bit of space to audience questions as well. But first of all, there are lots of lovely things being said about this session in the chat box. And I'm really happy with my casting crew. Getting you two together was my dream and I got it, and I find that it resonates with a whole lot of people. I'm so happy.
Thank you.
More power to us, Kinnara.
So it was lovely to see that this as... and in fact, two of them said that both of you should act in a film together.
Yes.
Wow. Yes. Absolutely.
We should. How will that happen?
Trying so hard to be composed, and you'll throw these things at me, and I go like a dog. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Now there are a lot of questions, but there are 3-4 which are similar. I'll ask at the same time. Okay. One is Devika says, "What kind of content would you like to explore in future? Something you fantasize." Then to Parvathy, a book and this is Sangeeta Nandagopal, who says a book and character which you would like to portray on screen or maybe direct someday. Then Amita Desai says, which has been your favorite role? Which character has lingered with you beyond the release? Now, all these 3 questions are somewhat similar. That's why I've asked them in one breath.
Cool. I want to hear yours first.
I just, can you repeat the first question?
You took a pen.
First question is, what kind of content would you like to explore in future? Something you fantasize.
Yeah. So I'm waiting. My favorite genre is kind of like this psychological horror. I know it's very weird, but like, even Death in the Gunge has strains of that in a subtle way, But I really find, and like if you can make it actually about something else, ostensibly about something scary, but actually something else, like, how Babadook is about motherhood, but it's about something else, or how Get Out was, so it's horror, but it's actually about like racism. So I just love that kind of stuff. I find it personally very fascinating. So and stories which are not told, as I said, those kind of things, like motherhood, like to make it, how can I make it interesting and appealing to non-mothers, that is something which I'm also interested in and thinking about, those kind of things. What about mothers who don't like their children? We never come across that. The narrative we're so used to is, oh God, my mom is coming to stay with me. She's so annoying. I can't stay with her mom for more than 1 week. This is constantly, it's so normalized. It's so normal. We are not hearing about the moms and the dads who are like, oh my God, my needy child has surfaced again. Oh, my child is so disappointing. We never come across that. That must also be a truth somewhere. So those kind of things really interest me, and I wish I could like frame it in a horror kind of framework. I don't know. So that's something which interests me, and I just like stories of like women or characters I can play who are going through some kind of transition. I always like that, like going from like one point to another point.
Okay. So I'll repeat the other questions too then. A book and character which you would love to portray on screen or maybe direct someday. This is for Parvathy.
Oh, well, I would love to play Madhavi Kuti, Kamala Suraya. I mean, it's kind of like being discussed with a filmmaker right now. So my hope is that it will, come true. For me, I don't know, something about her just has stuck. Every time somebody has asked me before reading her books, I never had an answer to the fact that do you want to play a role, a particular role. But if I could attempt playing a version of her, I don't think anybody can truly play her, but a version of her which can be as true as we can get, I would love to do that. So I'm hoping that project will get on flow soon. But also, like, I think I feel like the psychological horror space and comedy are two spaces I haven't explored. I have explored the very intense, dramatic, realistic stuff, but I haven't explored comedy and psychological horror. So for me, comedy is a space I would love to go try. And if I fail, I fail. But I do feel like there is something in me that seems to just want like burst open, like bursting at the seams. And Tanuja, in fact, Konkona had told me several times, like, when you do have a glass of wine, there's this quicksilver about you that just comes and goes, and you should use it enough. So I'm like, maybe somebody should hear
yeah,
this.
because just hearing you speak today, I mean, I think you do a great job.
Konkana, have you ever thought of doing an out and out comedy? I mean,
I have done some comedy actually. It's just that maybe it's not been watched very much. I have done some comedy in like a film called Sunglass Rituparna Ghosh's, which never released. Mixed Doubles is kind of a comedy. I've done Atithi Tum Kab Jaoge. I've actually like done some. The President is Coming. So in my filmography, there comedy. I love comedy. I mean, I really enjoy it. So
we should see that aspect of you more, I guess. But like, yes, Kinara.
Okay, Devika has a question for each of you. For Konkona, she has your thoughts on how to normalize conversations about mental health in India.
Yeah. I mean, it's we have to. I guess I don't know, like spread awareness in new and innovative ways, because every family, every extended family will have somebody or the other who's suffering from some mental health issues, and it is so stigmatized and so hidden away that and so that if we do speak about it, then there are so many other people who are with us. The other thing is that when we do speak about mental health, it is invariably a main character.
Yeah.
Our worlds are not peopled by other kinds of people.
Yeah.
Like our worlds are peopled by the default, and the default is invariably, Hindu, dominant caste, able-bodied, people. So we have to have, different kinds of people in our worlds. I mean, we have to see them and then represent them and, spread awareness and talk about them. I actually really don't know, but I'm happy to have a
Yeah.
discussion.
It does require a lot of awareness still. Yes, that's true. To Parvathy, Devika's question is, what is the latest web series you binge watched?
Oh, it's not. Oh, well, I guess it's binge watching. Oh, it's kind of like, so Schitt's Creek is my go-to. It's my therapy of sorts. Like,
Absolutely.
Schitt's Creek is the kind of the series that I would love to see in terms of even representation. It is so casual about it. So I feel like that's one amazing series that I continue to binge watch. And Mayor of Easttown.
Yeah.
Mayor of Easttown is
Have
what
to watch that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Amazing.
nothing more to say. It's
Yeah.
Arun G has a general question to both of you. To what extent an association can help in issues? Did you fight alone or did association help you when you had a problem?
Yeah, this is for me.
Yeah, I
For
think
both,
it's
it's
part
a
of the
general
question.
question.
Well, I was part of an association, an actors association. I'm not anymore. But when I was with them, there was some production related issues that they promptly took care of. But then when it came to deeper issues, they were very closed about making any change. So I left. So I do believe there's a lot of power that they do hold, but it's kind of held so close as if like it's sand going between your fingers, but it won't. The more you share that, the more emancipated we would be. So I do believe in the power of collectives and associations to do better, but so far it's a little limited is what I feel.
Sangamitra Malik asked, sorry.
I just want to add to that, no, not at all, which is that I am not really part of any association. I think I'm part of Sinta because that's a formality that I have to, but it's not like I've ever anybody's, I had to really reach out for help and they have helped. Nothing like that has happened because it's, but I feel what is really required is an association just for actors, as Parvathy already has with WCC, but even just like, of course, for sexual harassment issues, but even otherwise, like who is getting paid how much, who is being duped by one producer, and like don't work with this producer, or this producer is telling you one thing but is telling another actress another thing. We need, because unions are so powerful. So it's great. Like I have friends who are actresses and we do talk to each other. Oh, they offered you only this much. They're offering me this much. Please ask for more. It is so empowering. We need it. It's so basic. We don't need massive, super mega structures of men who are, like have these very formal structures of associations.
Yeah, I do want to just clarify a little bit is that the Women in Cinema Collective is a collective for all women working in all departments, not just actors. There are directors, writers, producers, editors, everybody is there in it. So far, we have about 60 to 70 members. But it's again, like, because we started it in Kerala, it's again not just for Kerala. I feel like ever since the collective was formed, like Konkona said, we started sharing notes on our experiences, and like not just sexual harassment and repeat offenders came to the fore several times, but also in how they pit us against each other. It was very interesting. It's like it's very sneaky. So we ended up being these individual islands, never really congregating and sharing our experiences with each other, which is another safe space for us to start. So when the collective was formed, it wasn't all hunky-dory. We all kind of struggled with understanding what is this feminine energy of all of us sitting together too, because we are very used to being surrounded massively by men, and we know what that dynamic, how that works and how to navigate. But suddenly, especially speaking for myself, I was suddenly like, wait, how do we converse itself became much of a study. So I think that is now better for us. Like 4 years we've grown a lot, but so like that organic kind of collective nature needs to happen more. It needn't have a society tag or an association tag like Kokna was saying, but we need to have the, I don't want to call brotherhood
More
system.
networking, more
Yeah.
networking, togetherness. Jilan Chattaraj asks, can be asked either Konkana or Parvathy. Could you comment on the state of film reviews in India? Films have evolved, but has criticism of films in print and digital media evolved equally?
Let you take that, Konkana.
I actually don't know. It's not like I'm reading a lot of reviews. And there are some reviewers who are good and there's some reviewers who are not. So I just don't follow those reviewers. There are a few who are not bad, and so I just follow a few of those. So I don't really know.
I used to not either. I used to not read a lot of reviews. I do feel there is a really annoying culture of just spoilers in things and just like putting the focus on just about the aesthetics or the just the actors and stars. I mean, just takes away from the experience of what cinema should be ideally, according to me. I mean, different people feel differently about how they're going to consume cinema. But I do want to say recently, now since lockdown, there have been such interesting reviews coming of my films by people in Instagram. Like they are so committed to it, they would make slides and a proper like dissertation. So once the movie is released and 2 weeks later, I love being tagged on those because now I'm seeing things about my character I hadn't thought of. So it's very interesting how they consume it. So in that way, I guess that's also like a review, maybe not a critic review.
News space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But film criticism should be taught, I think, in school.
Yeah, I do believe.
Yeah, it's taught in film schools, I mean, it's part of, what happens, but
Just in the same way that feminism should be taught in schools.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry, Kinara.
There's a youngster who's asking, Manmita Swaroop, what advice do you have for female actors starting up who want to work in alternate cinema? How do we find these scripts and the right people?
Such tough questions.
Start, like just start, get started. Know how to say no to what you're not comfortable with. Know your why. Actually, that is my biggest, like, that's my saving grace. Every single time I find myself a little consumed or confused, to be honest, I always go back to my why. I reflect on my why constantly. Why am I here? Why am I doing this job? And that can change, by the way, that can evolve from when I started to now. It hasn't really changed much. There are elements added to it, but even if that changes, it's fine. But as long as your why is solid as to why you're here, I do believe you will attract the right kind of crowd. And when you do find your tribe, don't let go of them, grow with them, because that has helped me. But again, like, it has to be an individual journey that feeds your soul and takes care of your mental health. So like in any workspace, I would say, know your why as to why you're here.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous advice. I don't think I could add anything better to that. I always feel that, there are so many talented actors who don't get their due, who don't get recognition, who don't get, fame, money, awards, and so many who are not as talented who do. So this first we have to accept that it is like this. And knowingly, then if you go into it, then that can help. I also am of the opinion that one should not place one's happiness only on one thing. That one's happiness should come from different areas of life, because we don't know, and a lot of it, according to me and the way it's in my life and what I've seen, a lot of it is also luck. And many things are not in our hands, and things are not always fair.
Lata Pillai asks you, would be nice to know, how do you prepare for a role? Is it studied or instinctive?
For me, it's a mix of both. It started with an extremely very academic kind of because I felt like there needs to be something like a Hermione's bag, like that invisible bag, like people who read Harry Potter would know, can go in and there's like a bag of tricks next to you. So I kind of arm myself with whatever I can. Reading up, having discussions with my creators, with my co-actors. If there's a workshop, well and good. But then when I do go on set, it's not like going by textbook, then it's instinct. And I feel like whatever would have stayed with me would then come in. Like, it's more practical too, right? Like on set, there are so many elements you're with. It's not just the performance aspect. There's a light department, camera department. You're also kind of figuring out your dynamics with a new team each time. So you kind of have to study that energy, understand what your give and take is going to be. So it's a very, I don't know, I'm just in love with the idea, the fact that it's not a solo experience, but it's also, you kind of go it alone as well. So for me, the preparation that I do off set really kind of takes care of me in case what I'm expecting from a group experience doesn't come through. So it's also kind of protecting myself from, yeah.
There are lots of questions, but do I have time for just two more? Yeah. Karim Meppadi asks, what's your comment on the new censor board rules for the movies? I like that. I think the answer is one.
Yeah.
Then Archana Londhe asks, which role helped you to figure out contradictions in you as a person?
Oh, that's good.
I'm like looking at the time. Actually, my very first, it's actually an easy answer. But my second movie, Notebook, Pooja Krishna. I remember sitting with my writer at my workshop and at the workshop, and she's someone who just really safeguards herself. I mean, anybody who wants to watch the film, I'm very protective about films and spoilers, so I don't want to give much. But she's definitely not the friend who stood by her friends, and she took care of herself. And I remember saying to the writer, I wouldn't have done that. And he said, exactly, like, but have you thought if you were in her position, had her upbringing, what it would have been? So for me, that empathetic muscle inside me was activated then. And so then I realized that that's very presumptuous of myself to think that I wouldn't have done that. And then eventually later in life, I have been in such situations and not proud I have, not been such a great friend to many actually. So, yeah, from Pooja Krishna to now, there has been a lot of studying contradictions within myself. Yeah.
I don't know whether I've already asked you, but I think I'll ask Konkona. Sangamitra Malik asks, what's the next book you're writing and what's the next film you're planning to direct? Really waiting for that.
Next book I'm writing means I have not written a single book so far.
Okay,
I wish I have.
Next script.
Next script. I'm kind of trying to develop a series myself, which I mean I can't really speak about yet, but it's a kind of a light-hearted series that I'm trying to develop. And what is the next part of the question?
When are you planning to direct it? Waiting for that.
So the thing is that, I never thought I would direct films, and I don't really have this thing. I mean, I don't have to be a career director in that sense. So, because I think I'm primarily an actor. So it's only when something really comes to me, like, I was really obsessed with the character of Shutu and the world of McCluskey Gun. So I felt like I had to kind of do that. I don't feel like that now. I've been lucky that I've been getting some interesting roles of late, earlier on in my career, I was getting a lot of the similar kind of roles, a very good, earnest, morally upright, kind of a woman. But of late, I've been getting interesting roles. So I'm really enjoying that. And I think I'll direct something only as and when I'm really moved to do it. Otherwise, I mean, it's just such a waste of everybody's time and money.
Okay, I'll end with one last question because Amita Desai said my question was asked, but I didn't get an answer. Which has been your favorite role? Which character has lingered with you, either you and or Parvathy beyond the release?
All of them, really. Like I said earlier, they're all with me. Creepy that, but Konkona, I think you can take that.
I kind of agree with what Parvathy said, because I feel like, one is how deeply do you want to go into it yourself, which also means how deeply are you examining yourself. And then accordingly you can bring out that particular character from you, because I really feel we already have everybody inside us anyway. And only certain aspects come out in different circumstances, and our lives are, streamlined often. So, I mean, if I come across a character who's like angry or jealous, for example, I mean, I have known anger, I have known jealousy, or I have known loss, for other reasons, but I can use it in this, so I already feel we have all these things inside us in any case, and we bring out different things at different times. I sometimes actually tweak my own life according to the character that I'm playing. Like if I'm supposed to be kind of upset about something on a particular shoot day and something has occurred, which maybe is not that upsetting or I've dealt with, I will let it upset me a little bit, sometimes, because it's useful for my shoot that day. It's a dangerous thing to do.
Take it back home too.
Live on the edge. Yeah. So all these characters, I feel like Parvathy said earlier, are already there with me. And it depends on how deeply I have gone into them.
thank you both of you for such a wonderful session. It has been so engaging from the word go, and the kind of comments that have come into the chat box. I'm sure you are, I know
I can't
you'll
see
be able to read it later. No,
So
I'll send it to you.
to
I'll
go
send
on
it
the
to you.
side and check, but
I think Parvathy has been doing it online. She has been checking them out. So, but I will send it to both of you again.
Thank
Both of
you
you,
so
both
much.
Konkona and Parvathy, being articulate and women of substance, they have very heavy demands on their time. And therefore, we are truly grateful from the bottom of our heart that both of you spared a little bit of time from this COVID restricted web world where the demands on you are so high, and still spared that time for us to help our viewers and our friends here to enjoy. I mean, a dream come true. For me, it was definitely a dream come true to get to
Also, I love talking to them.
Thank you so much, guys. I just want to say that we don't always have to be women of substance. Women don't have to be like always of substance, and we can be vulnerable, and that there also is our strength.
it's been something I was looking forward to. I wouldn't have missed it. A chance to sit for an hour and a half and forget everything else and only sort of relive the best experiences. And of course, because I have to say I was partial Kinnara, like when I saw the mail and I saw Konkana's name, I was like, what is 25th? Like everything gets cancelled. I need this.
Oh,
So,
thank you, Parvathy. What a pleasure it's been to talk to all three of you. Thank you so
Thank you, Padma. Thank you,
beautiful
Kinnara.
session. Thank you very much for being here and really electrifying this whole atmosphere. And Padma, thank you so much for leading them on and being with this whole session. And to our wonderful viewers who put a lot of appreciation and questions in the chat box. We really hope that we'll get the occasion to call you all once again. So thank you so much from both Hyderabad Literary Festival and Moving Images for this wonderful experience you have given with us. This will linger with us for quite some time. And we look forward to seeing you sometime in future. Please do oblige us. After some time, we'll call you, not now. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Be safe.
so much. And please remember, all our viewers, just one more final announcement. Next, on 9th July, we have Rohan Chakravarthy's book launch, and it'll be a wonderful, it's a tongue-in-cheek kind of a humor. It's satirical, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Please tune in for our fortnightly Fridays of HLF. And we hope to see you soon. Thank you once again, Konkana and Parvathy. Here's a huge wave of gratitude from all of us. Bye.
Bye.
Jyoti baby, thank you so much.
Was it good? Yes.
I hope you're not live.
I know. We'll talk on phone. It's not live, right?
I haven't seen Jyoti here, so I'll just put a chat and then we'll leave.
I think, yeah, she's... should have logged off, actually.
Yeah, we can log off now.
Yeah, okay.